The fate of legal abortion as a constitutional right is in the hands of the United States Supreme Court.
That's right. The 9 justices heard arguments yesterday in Dobbs versus the Jackson Women's Health Organization. It's a case from Mississippi that could overturn Roe v. Wade.
Mississippi's ban on abortion 2 months before viability is flatly unconstitutional under decades of precedent. The data has been very clear over the last 50 years that abortion has been critical to women's equal participation in society. It's been critical to their health, to their lives.
We're running on 50 years of Roe. It is an egregiously wrong decision that has inflicted tremendous damage on our country and will continue to do so and take innumerable human lives unless and until this court overrules it.
Mississippi's law currently bans most abortions after 15 weeks instead of 22 to 24 weeks when the fetus generally becomes viable to live outside of the womb.
So here to help us understand what exactly is at stake is law professor and author of Abortion and the Law in America, Roe v. Wade to the Present, Mary Ziegler. Thanks so much for being here this morning, Mary.
Thanks for having me.
So, Professor Ziegler, after hearing those arguments yesterday, and we heard a lot from so many of the different justices, it seems as if there are at least 5 justices, maybe 6, that are in favor of overturning or at least modifying Roe v. Wade. What is your sense from what you heard yesterday?
Yeah, I think there's no way that Roe v. Wade comes out of this case intact, and I think it's much more likely than it was before yesterday's argument that we get a direct repudiation of Roe v. Wade from the court this summer. Initially, going into the argument, I thought the court would be more likely to say that the viability line that you pointed to, the idea that the right to choose abortion applies until 20 to 24 weeks, that would be eliminated. I think now it's more likely instead that the court is going to go all the way to saying there is no right to choose abortion.
Okay, let's listen to the exchange that kind of shows the core of this case. Do we have the video? Okay, we don't have it. Well, one key issue is the concept, like you said, of viability. Right now, it's a pretty clear line for when abortion must be allowed. But if Roe v. Wade is struck down, we'd go back to abortion being legal on a state-by-state basis. Is that right?
It is, and we know that about 20 to 25 states will immediately ban abortion. That's not the ceiling. That's what we know will happen immediately. So there are going to be a lot of purple states with Republican legislatures that will ban abortion too. So, that we may see that happening in places even like Michigan or Pennsylvania. Another thing to keep an eye on if Roe is gone is what states mean when they say they ban abortion, because of course there are disagreements about how some drugs work. You all may remember during debate about the Obamacare contraceptive mandate that some conservatives took the position that emergency contraceptives were abortion-inducing drugs or that IUDs were abortion-inducing drugs. Some conservatives take that position about certain aspects of infertility treatment. So there may be other aspects of care that get swept in with these abortion bans, not just what people conventionally think of as abortion.
And of course, this all differs in state to state. So what is the impact in New York, New Jersey?
Yeah, the impact in New York and New Jersey will be obviously less immediate and intense. We won't expect to see abortion be illegal in New York or New Jersey anytime soon. But it's also wrong to assume that there'll be no effect because, of course, New York and New Jersey will, as they were, especially in the case of New York before Roe, become places that people travel from out of state. So people getting abortions in New York will run into people from out of state. New York may also find itself in legal battles because if doctors in New York, for example, decide that they're going to be willing to send medication to people from out of state or perform abortions on people traveling from out of state, they may see those states come after them for criminal charges, and there will be debates about whose law applies and who gets to decide. So as much as New York definitely won't be the place where these changes are felt the most acutely, it's also probably wrong to say that New Yorkers won't know the difference. Like everyone will know the difference.
Well, I'm curious to know how you feel about who should be making the decision. So should national abortion rights be a matter for Congress and not the Supreme Court?
I think that probably the best resolution and the resolution we see other countries sort of inching toward is that international human rights law is the place that we should look for this. And there's increasingly a consensus that you shouldn't be able to ban abortion throughout pregnancy in international human rights law. There's an argument that maybe the United States should land somewhere closer to Europe in the sense that maybe the rules should go you should be able to have an abortion, but only earlier in pregnancy, but it should be paid for. But the idea that you should criminalize abortion throughout pregnancy with no exceptions for rape or incest, and that should be left to states, I think, especially when those states don't necessarily have the most representative legislatures, I think is troubling.
So what are your thoughts on what Justice Breyer said yesterday? Because he expressed a lot of concern that the court is just increasingly being seen as this political body, right? And it's not supposed to have any party affiliation. So is that just unavoidable these days, given how the nomination process works, with each president putting their own onto the Supreme Court, how divided the country is this very moment?
I think it's inevitable up to a point, but I think that what the court is doing is certainly not helping, right? I mean, we know that the court's popularity has been generally pretty consistent. The court's often one of our most popular institutions, but in recent months that's changed. The court's approval ratings taken a nosedive. It's down to about 40%, which is a historical low, and that's because people more and more believe that this court is partisan, and that's partially because of the way the court itself is behaving. Obviously, if the court overrules Roe because its membership changed in one fell swoop, with a trio of justices nominated by Donald Trump, a man who promised that his justices, in his words, would overrule Roe v. Wade, people are going to think the court is partisan even more. So I think as much as it's inevitable, the court isn't really managing that perception as it might.
All right. Well, we shall see what happens next. We really appreciate your time this morning. Florida State University law professor Mary Ziegler, thanks again for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.